Hi, welcome to Top of Mind. Today our guest is Rahul Sood of Microsoft Ventures. We'll be discussing what Microsoft is doing to create an entrepreneurial ecosystem here and around the world. I'm your guest host, Nathan Kurtz, and this is Top of Mind. Hello and welcome to Top of Mind. I'm joined today with our special guest, Rahul Sood. He's General Manager and Partner of Microsoft Ventures. And Rahul, why don't you start with just giving the viewers today a little background on what Microsoft Ventures is?
Sure. Well, I guess I should probably put a little history behind it because Microsoft for the longest time has always believed that, startups are important to the company. We've had, a number of programs in the past that continue to operate. So, for example, we had the BizSpark program running for a little over 5 years now, where Microsoft would give free software and tools to startups to help them build their business, right? And they have to be under $1 million in revenue, under 3 years old, and they would qualify for that. But lately, things have changed in the startup ecosystem, where there's never been a time in our history where the barriers for entry for tech have been so low and the accelerants so high, where you can put, 5 people in a garage and build something really disruptive, right? And nowadays, failure is encouraged, and entrepreneurship is also, encouraged. So there's, even though failure is kind of encouraged, it's encouraged in the sense that, fail fast and move on. And so Microsoft has, we're operating a number of accelerators around the world, these startup accelerators, in Tel Aviv, in Beijing, in Bangalore. Then we had a pilot running in Seattle. And we were running these for about a year and a half. And all of these different teams were all led by entrepreneurs inside of Microsoft. So cool. Entrepreneurs who had built and sold companies in the past, and but they were all sort of separate and they weren't really connected. And so last year we made the decision that we needed to stop confusing our customers. In this case, it's the startup and entrepreneur community, and we needed to consolidate all of our startup activity under one umbrella, including our seed fund. So we have our accelerators, we have curriculums that we're developing for students, student entrepreneurship. We have the BizSpark program, and we also have a seed fund where we go in and we make small investments in companies and we help them grow their business. And we put it all under Microsoft Ventures. So that's essentially what Microsoft Ventures is in a nutshell.
And how old is Microsoft Ventures?
Microsoft Ventures is about a year old right now, yeah.
And prior to that, you had the Bing Fund as well, correct?
That's right.
And talk about that a little bit, how that got started and your involvement with it.
Sure. Well, okay, so I had been an entrepreneur in tech for 18 years or so before I joined Microsoft. And when I was an entrepreneur, I had a lot of failures and a couple of successes, and I was in Canada. And one thing led to another, and somehow I got recruited into Microsoft without a clear role, to be honest. When I came into the company, I had expectations of having a very specific role. It was for the Xbox team, and then when I moved here, moved to Seattle, I started in January of 2011. And the role that I had completely changed. The management changed and everything changed. And so I was in the company for 11 months, my first 11 months. And in that time I had something like 4 different managers. Wow. And I was just ready to blow my brains out and leave the company. It was hard. The hard part is actually, that Microsoft is full of incredibly smart people. It's one place you can go where you'll find the world expert in any given field that you're interested in just around the corner. It's an amazing company because you're surrounded by brilliant people. Yeah. But that makes it really hard because you're surrounded by people that are all smarter than you, and you need to figure out how to get them to do something that inspires them and gets them to think differently about going to get something done. Microsoft operates like that. It operates like, where you can do whatever you want as long as you're good at it, right? And so after the 11 months, I realized I had to go do something of value that I knew. The one thing I knew was angel investing. I do a lot of investments personally, and I spend a lot of time in the entrepreneur startup community. I'm on the boards of different companies and things like that. So I've done this for a long time, and I would always go spend time with startups, and I would find that Microsoft, we have so many strengths inside that people don't realize, right? When they think of us, they think of Windows or they think about whatever, and there's a lot more that we offer, and so what I wanted to do was really look at what are the big strengths that Microsoft has. And we got together as a team, and we realized, one of our biggest strengths is our footprint in the enterprise. And startups care about their customers the most, right? They care about how do we get customers, how do we do customer validation and things like that. So essentially, I wanted to create an investment fund, a small fund, where we go and we make tiny seed investments in companies, and then we help them grow their business by connecting them with customers. It's a pretty simple model.
Sure.
So we help them go from their ideation to prototyping. Obviously we help them with their technology, but the biggest piece we help them with is getting connected to customers, and that was what started the Bing Fund. And we pitched it to one of the senior executives, one of the presidents at Microsoft, and he loved the idea and said, we should go do this. So I got hired in March to go start the Bing Fund. And in the meantime, there were other teams, as I mentioned, across Microsoft that were running these accelerators. And then eventually we decided we need to pull this all together and create a single value proposition for startups around the world.
So you're the GM and partner. How much time do you get to spend actually mentoring companies? How much of your time is vision casting and all of that?
We've had 120 companies go through our accelerators in the last year. 85% of them got funded, 35% have hit Series A. Cool. And now we're looking back at those ones and saying, who are the racehorses that we can go in and make investments in? I don't spend as much time as I'd like mentoring early stage companies because I just don't have the time anymore.
Yeah.
But I do get to go, travel to pretty much every corner of the world to go visit this different startup ecosystems. I was in Dubai the other day in early January, and I went to a startup accelerator in Dubai, and I thought, what's this going to be? It's government funded. You're talking about a city where there's cash money everywhere, right? They've built the most beautiful skylines in the world, and there's a startup accelerator that's government funded, and it's all about entrepreneurship. So I'm like, who am I going to see in this room that's going to really be interested in building a company, right? They already have enough money here, and I was blown away. I went there and I saw international presence. There's people from all over the world inside this accelerator inside Dubai, and they're there because it's a central area. It's a central hub for doing business. It wasn't what I thought it would be, which I thought it would be Arabs sitting in a room trying to do startups. It wasn't. The only Arabs in the room were the people that were running the accelerator, and they're doing it to foster business, and that's what they do there. They think about business thinking, and how do we evolve from being this energy capital to being the business capital in the whole region. And so you see stuff like that all over the place. It's interesting.
What does success look like for Microsoft Ventures in 2014?
So success looks like, let's go back to our accelerator companies, let's look at the really big ones, or the ones that we think are big winners, and let's connect them to customers and give them an unfair advantage in the market and just grow the hell out of them, right? So that's one thing. And the second thing is, we need people to see that we have a lot more to offer than what meets the eye, right? Microsoft as a company is very open source friendly. We're extremely entrepreneur friendly. We're the original startup. Never mind every other startup company out there, but if you think about having been at Microsoft for 3 years, I can now see the implications that this company has had in the world, right? I mean, this company has helped to create, every major tech startup that there is, had helped to, if you look at all the ex-Microsofties who leave the company and go do startups, it's pretty interesting where they end up,
Sure.
or go work at other tech companies. And then, they've helped governments, and they've helped just build generations and generations of wealth. And then we have a founder. We have a living founder who's dedicated his life to making the world better, right? And so we really need to do a big perception change about Microsoft, right, in the startup community, and this is what I aim to do. So it's all about perception and then creating the next big wins.
That's great. Talk about some of your biggest failure at Microsoft Ventures so far, if I can ask that. What lessons have you learned?
Well, I don't know that we've been around long enough to say that we've had a big failure yet. The only thing I would say that I've learned is, we are a group of entrepreneurs inside of Microsoft Ventures. We don't have all the answers, and there's enough people inside of Microsoft that have answers that we don't have. And so the lessons that I've learned is, you can't go in with arrogance thinking that I'm an entrepreneur and you've been here for 20 years, you don't know what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
It's just not true. There's so many people inside the company that have value to bring. And I've learned that, when you're empathetic to that, you learn a lot more. And also, there's so much more than Silicon Valley out there. There is way more happening elsewhere in the world. The nice thing about it is if you really look at the data and what's happening, yeah, all roads, or maybe a lot of the roads eventually lead to Silicon Valley for money, but it doesn't mean you have to be in the Valley to build a business. And we want to help forward and advance ecosystems everywhere so that it doesn't have to be that way, right? And I think as we do that, as we mature this, then you're going to see a major change in the world, a major shift in the world because of work like this that we're doing.
That's great.
So
Rahul, what are you guys looking for in 2014 at Microsoft Ventures? What types of startups are you looking for? To say tech might be too vague, but are there certain industries you're looking at?
Sure. Since every ecosystem is different, I'll say this. Microsoft Ventures in 2014 will open up a couple more pilot accelerators. We're running one in Brazil. We have one in Paris and London. We just opened the one in Berlin. We have Tel Aviv and Beijing and Bangalore. And then we're doing something in the US soon. Our focus right now is going to be to get these things off the ground, get these ecosystems moving, and continue to drive really great quality companies. Our goal is to help create great companies and create successful companies. And when we talk about the early days of our accelerators, where we had people who were super skeptical of coming to Microsoft in the first place, and we barely had any applications for the first class. We now have between 800 and 1,000 applications for people who want to join our accelerator, and we only accept 15 companies at a time. So the quality of companies that are coming in are very high. So the goal is to go and continue to forward some ecosystems and build some new ones, and then at the same time, in terms of like themes and areas we look at, Microsoft is a very diverse company. We have everything from consumer entertainment and gaming, music, all the way to cloud enterprise, and so it doesn't matter, right? As long as they're solving a big problem and technology can help them solve it, we want to be there to partner with them.
Rahul, thank you for your time today. Thank you for watching Top of Mind with Rahul Sood, General Manager and Partner of Microsoft Ventures.